Hello, folks. Welcome to Office Hours at Philosophy Hall with Dennis. Today, we'll be talking about writing a successful research proposal. But first, let me ask you, what is a research proposal? You will be asked to write a version of this document at many stages of your academic career. You may be an undergraduate writing a term paper, and before you do that, you may be submitting something like a research proposal or a paper proposal for that class. You may be doing an honors thesis for your program. You may be a graduate student writing a dissertation prospectus, which is another kind of a research proposal. You may be applying for a travel grant or a fellowship or a postdoc, which again will ask you to articulate some plan of research. All of those things will be slightly different depending on the field, depending on where you are, but more or less they will have the same parts. And having read thousands of these documents at every level, I put together a few things that are really, I really hate reading, and I'm kind of annoyed when I'm reading this. And I put together 6 or 8 parts that you absolutely must include in any version of a research proposal. Okay, so common pitfalls and things that will really make your proposal stand out and will make it excellent. Also, when you include these parts that I'll be talking about, your job of writing these proposals will also become much easier. It will become a much more pleasant, let's hope, task intellectually and emotionally. Let's hope. Now, the way I organize this is by questions. There are several questions that you must answer. There are parts that you must include. And these questions, these parts will correspond to a paragraph, more or less, each. Again, very much depending on your specific format. It may be that some of these questions will require multiple paragraphs, maybe even multiple pages, or it may be that one paragraph will more or less cover several parts. But so don't get stuck on this. It really depends. But just try to understand the spirit of the endeavor, the spirit of this document. So let's get the most important thing out of the way. So let's do this one is number 1, this number 2. So the most important thing is that very often I see research proposals begin with a statement, with some kind of assertion about how the world is. It will begin with a thesis, or kind of it will begin with a conclusion about the whole thing. And that never made sense to me. If you are beginning with a conclusion, but you haven't even done the research yet, you haven't written anything yet, that makes absolutely no sense. So the question that you must ask yourself and that you must convey to your reader is really about the question. It's about the kind of question you will ask. Any good story must begin with a sense of a mystery, okay? So there's something out there in the world that captured your attention and something that doesn't make sense, something that you don't know everything about, right? And you're going to tell me about why that thing matters to you, how you got to that thing, what is so mysterious about it, and then I will care. The reader, I am your audience, your peers will care about reading this document. You will bring them along into the mystery, right? That is your job. So think about the first sentence as setting the stage a little bit. How did you come to this question? So let's say you are an anthropologist. You are maybe a linguist. I'm going to use an example from my own research. And you are looking at vaccine hesitancy. You're looking at people who are against the vaccines, and you're looking at the increase in vaccine hesitancy. So you're observing something out there in the real world that doesn't make sense to you. How is it that the United States is in danger of losing its measles vaccination status? We thought we have eradicated measles, but all of a sudden people are telling stories to each other that are promoting vaccine hesitant messages, right? They're eroding the trust in vaccination. What has happened in the United States that has eroded the trust in vaccination? So that is my question. That is my mystery. How did I get there? I can say that in 2020, even before COVID, I was reading a newspaper article, or maybe I sent my kids to school. I don't have kids, but let's imagine it should be often a personal story, right? The personal mystery is you send your kids to school, the kids are sent back home because there's a measles outbreak. Why? Why is there a measles outbreak? So you will begin with the question of what has prompted the interest in the topic. It's a hook, right? A successful writing will often have a hook. It will often bring the audience in. I wouldn't get too cute about it. I wouldn't get too sort of artsy about it, and you have to contextualize, and a personal contextualization is always good. How did you personally come across this topic? I was walking home and I saw the lack of lights on my street, whatever it is. And I thought, why is urban infrastructure full, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how did we get here? Quickly, contextualize. So here, the important part here, let me put context, okay? So here we are looking for what has prompted your interest in the topic. Give us a little bit of the context. But that's really an appetizer for the main meal. The most important thing, if you do nothing else, if you get nothing else from this discussion, is understand that just posing an interesting question alone is enough, is amazing. If you're able to pose an interesting question, your advisor, your professor, the panel that's reading this, they will right away understand, wow, this is an interesting topic. I would also like to know the answer to this mystery. So you're going to ask what philosophical, literary, social, ideological, historical, I don't know, you're in physics, what problem in mathematics will your work engage? What kinds of questions do not interest you, right? Bracket it. What categories of thought and critical assumptions are involved? What kind of questions you will be asking? That is number one. Well, number two, really, right? So context, and then this is the big one. Now, number three, this is also a common mistake. So, okay, you were walking home and you started wondering about the way our modern cities are set up and why isn't there more light or whatever? Why isn't there more vaccination? Okay, that sounds really cool. That sounds really curious, right? The curiosity moment. But is that a new question? And it's very likely, given the size of academia, given our late coming to this world, it's very likely that there is a tradition of answering this question. So a common mistake is even when people manage to ask an interesting question, they right away jump into answering or proposing a plan to answer this question, but without really the awareness that there is a whole tradition of addressing this question, okay? So your next step is to convey to your audience, convey to your reader, a particular tradition of answering this question. So here is one way to think about this, or another way to think about this would be to think about a brief literature review. It doesn't have to be everything ever written on the topic, but you can say that again, I'm just making stuff up. In urban studies, the problem of urban lighting has been addressed in this manner. But there is also another school of thought that believes in natural lighting, and they believe something else. And now, after you set out a few of these anchor points, you sketch out a bit of an intellectual map of what has come before. Again, you don't have to mention everything, but it shows that you understand the research, or at least where the research might be. And then what you can do is you can locate your answer within that landscape, within that topography. There are two camps, example from my work. Vaccine hesitancy, we normally understand it in terms of demographics, and there's a bunch written on the demographic question of how vaccine hesitancy happens based on demographics. As somebody who studies language and culture, I am looking at it through the lens of language. And so you may belong to a different social group, but you may be talking and speaking and using particular way of speaking that indicates a buy-in into a particular worldview. If you have, you may have that uncle that begins to talk to you about new age crystals and energy and natural healing. And right away, after he says a few words, you know that he's representing a worldview that's out there. So belonging can be through who you are, through your demographics, but belonging can also be articulated through the ways you speak. And there's a particular tradition of looking at identity and looking at belonging through language and through the kind of concepts that you're using. So you're indicating your, I often call it your fellow travelers. Who is coming along? You're continuing a particular tradition, and it might be that you're arguing against something. So maybe the demographic approach is useful, but it has certain caveats, it misses certain points. And so you put down a few points on the map, on the intellectual map. And then once you do that, it establishes your authority, number one. And number two, it helps you locate your own sense of research. I am going to be continuing this idea, and I'm going to be arguing or sort of countering a particular perception or a particular strain of research that thinks otherwise, the different camp. You know, there might be two camps, there might be more. Pick your battles here. We don't need the whole map. Schematics. How do your questions fit within the broader tradition? Note the metaphors I'm using. Topography, map, etc. Put down your anchor points. Anchor. Now, once you have done this, so you have given us a curious question. Like I said, if you manage to do that well, already most of your work is done. A high-level researcher will recognize how interesting your question is right away, and you already may be able to sail just on the basis of that. But the next thing you will do is you will locate yourself within a tradition and within a field, and that will really help you. That will help you articulate your question more precisely. So maybe initially your question was kind of vague. So note when I described the vaccine thing, I said vaccine hesitancy. That's a very technical way of speaking about language and about the way people speak about health. So that tradition gives you a particular language. It gives you a set of tools to begin to more narrowly speak about, more technically speak about, and more precisely speak about the problem. Okay? Now, 1, 2, 3, like I said, the most difficult parts. Think about them. If you don't have an answer to those questions, you are not ready to write a research proposal yet. Think about it. And the other thing I would say, don't fake it. When you're truly curious, when you go, wow, how does that work? Well, why is that? And, often it's obvious things. Why are streets lit at night? I don't know. Let's think, right? It's something that you will have to start poking around, and you will hopefully find something interesting. Once you do that, you're ready to move on to the next question. So it is the how. How? Actually, I said how. Okay, forget this how. So far, we've answered what and why. Why? Why is the most important thing. If your reader understands the why, you're done. But now the how. The how is the practical. The how is kind of pragmatic, I would say pretty easy to write, or at least often easy to write. So now you're going to say, okay, to find answers to my questions, I will do something. And this often has to do with your methodology. What are you going to do? Are you going to set an experiment? Are you going to go to a library? Are you going to go interview people? Are you going to go map things out? Are you going to just go to an archive? The question about vaccination can be approached through the public health perspective. You can do interviews, you can do things in the lab, you can do a historical thing where you're looking at historical documents. You may be asking the same question, but answering it in a completely different way. So what are your methods? Where are you going to look for them? 4 and 5 are very similar. How and where? Are you going to go to an archive? Are you going to go to the street? Come up with a plan. So when undergraduates come to me, when graduate students come to me, they say, I will write the history of whatever, vaccination in the United States. And I will say, okay, well, to do that, that's not really possible in one dissertation. It's not really possible in one paper. My job will be to say, once I see that you're trying to articulate that how, we can start talking specifically about, look, you don't have enough time. We have a semester, you're writing a paper. You don't have time to go to travel, I don't know, to England or to Pakistan to study the history of vaccination. You have to constrain. And this is where you're working with your advisor and getting feedback and having that dialogue with your advisor can really begin on the nitty-gritty of how and where. The sense of your methodology, the sense of your archive, the sense of your tools will all start getting you closer to getting some kind of answer to that question, okay? So 4 and 5. You see how these are now easier. Once you have a question, how are you going to look for answers is much easier. Number 6, now you can, there you go, you can read that better like that. You remember how I said often these documents begin with an answer, and that doesn't make sense. They should begin with a question. They should begin with, I don't know. And by the way, don't be afraid to say, I don't know how this works. That's a great thing to say in your research proposal. I don't know how, and I will find out. And here's how I will find out. But now, down the line, you can begin to speculate about the kind of answers you will receive. So you can imagine if you are in a lab, for real, in a real lab, you kind of have a very good idea of the kind of data, right, that you will receive. You're working with, I don't know, fruit flies, and you're going to look at the rate at which they're reproducing, and what you're going to get is reproduction rates, and you expect that the reproduction rate will correspond with the amount of sugar, whatever it is, right? You can already, in some fields, start setting expectations. Similarly, you know what kind of answers you're not going to get. So you can start bracketing the expectations from your reader. And again, it's a very useful thing for your advisor to discuss with you, because you can then talk about the scope of your work. What number? Let's see. What number were we on? Number 6? 7. So now 7 and 8. Okay, we're almost there. 7 and 8. Now, these are probably some of the easiest parts. We talked a little bit about the kind of answers you anticipate, but now you have to take those answers and actually put it in writing. It doesn't matter what field you're in, your output is going to be some kind of written thing. I mean, maybe a poster, maybe if you're in computer science, maybe it's going to be more of a demo, but okay. So what are you committing to output? What will be your output of this? Is it going to be a paper? Is it going to be a demo? Is it going to be a poster? And give me more. That's not enough. If it's going to be a paper, what parts will it have? How long will it be? The more detailed you can be here, the better. What I recommend, and this is not everybody agrees, but one way of making this easy on yourself is to follow some specific format. So I don't know what the prospectus is in the abstract. I don't know what the paper is in the abstract. I know what books look like. I know what articles look like. These are specific things. They're written for specific venues and specific audiences. So often your professor will tell you, please submit, it's going to be 10 pages long and it's going to be whatever, font 12. Okay, do that. But even better is to imagine a journal. Imagine that you're writing for Nature. Imagine you're writing for Poetics Today or whatever. Just pick a journal that you love. And it doesn't have to be the most prestigious journal. It can be an undergraduate journal. But pick an audience. Picking a specific venue helps you structure your writing. You know exactly what the audience is. You know exactly what the editorial submission guidelines are. Should you format in MLA or Chicago or what? All those questions, there's no right answer. The right answer only makes sense when compared to the audience, when compared to the specific place where you're submitting. So even the length. Students, especially undergraduates, are often concerned about the length of the thing that they might submit because, right, you don't want to do too much work, but it's not the right question. I don't care what length it is. What length is appropriate to answer your question? How many words do you need? How many paragraphs do you need? How many pages do you need? And how many pages do we have? You can't submit a 40-page paper to some journals. You have to get it down to 10. So the more specific you can be about the venue, the more it helps you With your voice, it helps you find the right voice appropriate to the audience. So voice, audience, and the actual format of the thing that you're writing, the actual structure of the thing you're writing. All of those questions become easier when you imagine a very specific outlet and a very specific audience, right? Beyond your advisor, your professor, or whatever. So regardless, give me a plan. Sometimes I don't mind seeing an actual outline here. I will have introduction, whatever, discussion, conclusion, whatever it is. If it's something more strange and innovative, give me a structure, but it still has to have a structure. You're going to write an academic poem. Okay, I will entertain, but it has to have paragraph breaks. It has to have section breaks. How will you structure your writing? How do you imagine your audience? These are the kind of questions I will ask here. And finally, now this is the easiest part. Okay, you said you're going to write 20 pages on this topic. You're going to write 10 pages on this topic, and in addition, submit a demo of your whatever AI-enabled blockchain, I don't, whatever it is, right? Whatever you're doing for this class. Okay, we have 3 weeks to do it. Give me a week-by-week plan. Commit to some deadlines, right? And I, as an advisor, your advisor, can then help you say, okay, you know what? There's no way to do this. Like I said before, there's no way to do this in 3 weeks, or this is too easy. This can be done in a day. You got to go back to the earlier parts. You got to go back here. You got to go back to some of the earlier scoping parts and say, okay, you asked your question too narrowly or too broadly. Let's calibrate that. Let's calibrate in a way that would fit the kind of research, the scope of research that you are within the time frame that you have. And that's where things get very different from a dissertation perspective, which you're writing over the course of years, and a final paper, which you're writing in the course of weeks. But it doesn't matter. A plan is a plan. You can have a week-by-week plan if you have a month left to do something, or you can have a month-by-month plan or a semester-by-semester plan if you're writing something like a dissertation. In this part, do not be afraid to come up with bullet points, to come up with dates. It helps your advisor, it helps your professor know that you are organized, that you are going to be on time. If you are in a place that doesn't have great structure, that doesn't have great advising, you have to provide that structure for yourself. And the more you can commit to specific dates, the more you can hold yourself accountable to that structure, and the more you can help your advisors kind of guide you through that process. So that's it, folks. I think that's pretty much it. I know it's a lot. It's a lot. Some of these will be a paragraph, some will be several paragraphs, some of these maybe don't make sense for your specific situation. But believe me when I say that a successful research proposal in one way or another will have all of these components addressed. All right. Whew. Well, I am tired just saying this stuff out loud. I wish you the best of luck over the course of the break, over the course of the next semester. Please hit like, subscribe. It's a new channel. I'm going to hold these office hours on various topics that hopefully make you more successful in your academic journey. And I'll see you around. Thanks a lot.